Why, hello everyone. Today's a bit of a special day. I've been able to turn this off for a while, but I've been working on getting a handful of these chests set up around the world, with a handful in the way of material and stuff, and I think that I've actually got the ones over here done again, so I'm gonna probably be finding another place to go stash them. But I need to show a couple of things that I've happened to notice. There's bugs with the brown robes. First things first, out of their 13 trades, you see the one that's missing, of course. I've spent a while working on them, and I can't get that 14th trade to happen, so I'm thinking that in this version, 1.3, I just can't get the gold trade on a farmer, which is a bit of a shame. However, I went ahead and tested the butcher, and I've got quite a few of them. Perfect saddle seller, perfect steak sellers, perfect pork buyers, and also a perfect beef buyer, I think on the very end over here. And it was actually relatively quick to get them all done. So the butcher can actually be almost perfected in this version. The farmer, not quite. But between both of them, one of the common, what is the word am I looking for, bugs that I found, is the foods that they sell you. They don't seem to increase in value and efficiency like they should, and like they do from 1.4 till 1.7. Which is interesting to say the least, so I'll have to do some work on them up there. As for priests, they're pretty much standard from 1.3 until they change in 1.8, and the best I can get from them is going to be efficiency 3, unbreaking 3, and something else being directly applied to a tool. Now, on the note of these librarians, all of the ones on this side of the room have 7 trades, same for them, but all these guys have their gold trade, and about close to 30, just shy of 30, are missing the glass trade, but have a 19 or 20 paper trade, and the last 3 ranks back there are missing their paper trade because I've intentionally burned it out in the hopes that some of each type end up with enchantment, their enchanted book, in the second to last slot, in the hopes of having something nice and rare to save over until the point in time, well, that I'm finally in 1.8, and then all of them, even the failures, will become something special. Now, I had done a bit of work on blacksmiths. I've reorganized this one in the back here, so he's about as close to perfect as you can really get, almost. And this is the one who I had called perfect, having his emerald trades up front, followed by diamond and whatnot. Even though he doesn't have everything just yet, the last few unlocks will be quick enough. I made 2 more just like him, because apparently I like to suffer. But over here on the other side of the room is when I realized, after talking to one of my buddies, that Elric went through quite some trouble to make sure that he had, what is the word, the iron trade in the last slot, and that was more or less perfect. So I perfectly organized quite a few of them to where the iron trade is absolutely in the last slot. And they've got everything unlocked and organized. There's 3 of them here, which I'm going to leave as not fully unlocked, and leave them all the way till 1.8, when I'm going to upgrade them straight ahead. That way they've got a slightly smaller list, but all the diamond trades. And then, of course, just because I like to suffer, one more in the way of a absolutely perfectly organized blacksmith. I think the only thing that he's missing is that this chest plate can be for 10 emeralds instead of 12. But all the important trades are maxed out, which is great. Now, I've also made sure to get myself quite a few in the way of books. I did this while I was still in 1.2. I didn't bother mentioning. All of these are leather-free books, which means that, well, getting them done and having them ready for myself was really more of a time saver than anything else. I've used quite some number of them, and that's what those non-full chests represent. But everything is sped up considerably. I think that last time I had shot was shortly after I finished building here, and I didn't realize just how much faster it was going to be once I actually had everything up and ready. So I've been enjoying getting things prepared. It's not a 1 in a million chance. Definitely not a 1 in a million chance on that gold trade. It's maybe more like 1 in 500, maybe 1 in 1,000, probably closer to 1 in 1,000. But I wanted to make sure that down below I had way more than enough in the way of villagers ready and waiting as test subjects to become, a perfect villager for buying, for doing trades with. And, well, I could reload from a backup as many times as I needed, but I don't want to be a save-scumming bastard about it. I want to make sure that I'm actually ready before I go into it. And, of course, nothing against using a backup. They're incredibly useful. There's a lot of times when tragedy strikes, and they are the only thing that saves you from so much pain. So, of course, I use a backup, and I recommend that everyone do. My method of making a backup may not be the same as your method. I know that it's definitely not the same as everyone's method. The way that I go about it, I just quit out of the game entirely and go to the saves folder, send it to a compressed file while deleting the old one. That way I always have one backup and one live copy. Unless, of course, I'm doing something that involves needing a backup of the live copy, then I'll go ahead and just make a copy of it and, do what testing I need to do before deleting it, and then doing whatever I need to do on the real copy instead. But need to get myself just a few in the way of goodies set aside, because I'll be going off on a bit of an adventure today. Oh, right. I have access to colored wood now, which is wonderful. Of course, it does mean that I can't make any more in the way of, what is the word? Petrified slabs, or at least not nearly as fast. There is a method that'll exist soon, but it's really not nearly as fast. And speaking of fast, this thing has been a godsend. It's given me so much, but I forgot something. I forgot to go and build a small house full of double chests, full of sand, enough to keep me sated until the point in the future when I can do something different. Because eventually, the method by which I've been making sand in this world will be gone, and there just isn't enough sand in a desert to keep me going. So, I'll have to make sure, before I leave 1.3, to make one of those sand generators. And while I'm at it, I do believe that it's just a slightly different setting or a slightly different generator that'll allow me to do the same with dragon eggs. Now, I put my dragon egg in the storage room, of course, for safety's sake, and I'll probably have a few more dragon eggs before the end of it all. But I want to have enough of them, not only for their Easter egg use, but also for any cosmetic reasons that I might have in the future. Because they're a very interesting block, and their Easter egg use is so powerful. I mean, even if I collect them all the whole way through, there's always a chance of a lost one here and there. so I want to have enough. Now, I'm looking forward to fishing. I mean, I fished in this version and previous versions, and plenty in future versions. And I love the fishing loot. But I think it's 1.7 that it comes, as well as the particles when fishing. Now, a long time ago, I was playing around on a non-technical server with some friends, and the owner had let us know that he agreed with Mojang that fish farms, the AFK style, were too powerful, and so he wanted to give a try at having them banned. So I asked him, how do you feel about letting me manually fish? From a pond, a river, a stream, the ocean. When he realized that I really meant sitting at the computer and manually doing it, he let me know that yes, if I was willing to put in that much effort, then he'd let it be rewarded. What I used was the frog fishing method. Now, for those of you who aren't in the know, go watch Narcoleptic Frog's video and give him some love, because it's an amazing method. Simply said, when your bobber strikes the water, a 2 or 3 digit number appears. That counts down to 0. Obviously, the lower it starts, the better. And during this, there's some particles on your screen. And he had made a mod that counts the particles on your screen. And I don't remember if it told you to manually recast or if it recast for you. But with that, you could speed up the method of fishing through manual means. And he had mentioned something akin to, but not in the same words, that if you were insane, that you could probably pull off the exact same thing, just counting the particles roughly by eye instead. So when I heard that, it was like, yes, challenge accepted. And that's when I started using almost exclusively the frog fishing method, especially on that server, until the point in time that I had supplied everyone with top-tier bows, to the point that many people didn't even realize how much time I had put into it all. Now, even though that wasn't a technical server, there were quite a few technical players, and I'll probably get into mentioning that a little bit later, I think. But as for, what is it called? Ooh, excellent, it actually dropped as an item. I'm going to bring these both back with me. But as for the idea of, what's it called? The slabs, the petrified slabs. Since these early versions are really the only points that you can get them, outside of, I think, perhaps one Easter egg update that was marked with an infinity sign, I wanted to make sure that I had enough of them to go around. Technically, I could create them with the arrow method, but it's quite a bit slower, so I wanted to make sure that my storehouse over here was fully filled up. I see a great and terrible darkness. I need to revisit here and finish this job. I do have diamond tools, which means that it'll be significantly faster. Now, inside of the storehouse, I pretty much doubled what I had done before. It took some time, but I do believe that it was worth it. I mean, just take a look at it. It's finally got its true colors starting to show. So many things take so long for their true colors to show. But the pattern isn't right yet. It's far too rough. That'll change in time, though. Everything will achieve perfection eventually. Now, of course, I'd shown you lots of petrified slabs in all of these chests, and of course, I wasn't able to just stop there. I had to double what I did before I could actually be satisfied with myself. And, they're all petrified slabs. Most of them, a lot of them came from jungle, An oak. Cat, what are you doing? That's not a bug, it's a screw. But these, I really like the look of them so far. The color is coming along well. Really quite pleased with how it's coming along. Now, I don't know how much I mentioned, I don't remember, so I'll mention it again just in case, and that's that when I defeated the dragon, I made sure to leave myself a little bit of a reminder, as well as the items that I used for the melee combat, alongside some artifacts of a time gone by, which will certainly be useful. Now, whether they be artifacts or trophies, everything is useful. Speaking of useful, this thing has been so useful, the Type 1 tree farm. It was worth everything that I put into it and more. It's given me so many logs, so many slabs, so many apples. In fact, it's given me so many apples that I haven't even used them all. I need to go run the gold farm for a while longer and craft them all up. But I know what you're thinking. Golden apple. The ones that use a gold block, right? No, not quite. Not an ingot either. Uh, in this version, they use a nugget in their crafting recipe, and I want to take advantage of that as much as I possibly can before I update too awful far. Not because I need it, but because I want it. And it'll be useful in the future. I mean, it'll get me a good stock to start with, and a good stock to start with will definitely get me a lot further than just crafting as I go. So I do believe that that'll be more or less perfect. Now, on the note of those villagers, I've been taking advantage of the current, what is the word? You might almost call it a feature. Some would call it a hindrance, the oldest style of villager trading, where when you use up a trade, it deletes instead of just disables. I don't see many people doing much in the way of trading in these versions, and the only times that I see people trading in these versions is, well over 10-year-old videos. And I made sure to take advantage of the deletion mechanic to perfectly organize all of those villagers, because I wanted to make sure that when I set myself up for the future, that I also save myself a bit of time and trial and error, because in this version, technically any villager can be perfect, so long as you know what the order that you want is, and you're willing to take the time to get it, which is absolutely amazing. But you know what they say, when everyone's special, no one's special. Now, I love what I've done out here. I've needed lots of glowstone, lots of redstone. I'll need so much more. And now that it's on infinite status, it means that I can do large-scale projects and actually finish. So I felt a little embarrassed about shooting the last video fighting the dragon before I had actually finished my safety net. Now, in the combat update, these iron bars should be safe from the Ender Dragon, but they are not safe in this version, which is a bit of a pity, but it just means I'll have to be careful when I come back to this chunk, which is 00, and resummon the dragon. Now, it's marked out for more than one reason. In the combat update, I do believe that if, outside of the island, that if 000 was the highest block down here, it would delete. But if 00 and y=1 existed, neither would delete, which is interesting to say the least. So I do believe that I'll be checking that out to some degree and seeing what I can see exactly, because I do want to take some time and think about it, because there may be something interesting. I just don't know about it just yet. Now, I like having this big and beefy and rugged, beautiful and eternal, dragon-proof. And that's part of the reason why, when I was building this, I made sure that it would also be just as rugged. Oh, right, this glowstone bar is about 3 blocks outside of what the Enderman can teleport to. But I'd built the entire thing out of endstone, because I wanted to make sure that it was eternal. A long time ago, I had, well, most certainly not on one of my worlds, it was on a server, had a dragon fly through an Enderman farm similar to this one. It damaged it, and even though it wasn't being used, I really wanted an opportunity to go fix it. But everybody kind of decided for me that I was, well, an idiot, and that they were just going to remove it instead. It upset me to some degree, but what can you do? So I wanted to make sure that if the same thing happens here, that it's quick to go back and fix. Now I do plan on going up top and adding some redstone, that way I can turn the farm off. And also the down here, I'll probably be rebuilding it more than once, making it a little bigger, tearing it down at some point, making it smaller, bring it down all the way like Elric had done to just y=0 with water and carpets on top, because that would be absolutely beautiful. But I can't do that until 1.6. Ooh, very nice. Now, in the future from here, one of the things that I'm looking forward to is making sure that I don't have to rely on the enchanting table anymore. Now, of course, in this version, the enchantment table is nerfed compared to previous versions, and previous versions compared to any version of Minecraft. The previous one was the most powerful enchanting table that you can possibly have, with the level of its enchantments not being matched by anything else other than maybe end city loot tables, which actually could get pretty high, but not level 50 kind of high. And, well, at the moment, it may be nerfed, it may be, that's okay. That's okay. And I could use, what's it called? The enchantment cracking? Enchantment manipulation or whatever. There is a version of it for this, and several future versions, but I have no need for it anymore. I won't never need it again. It served its purpose. Its purpose was clear to me, and past that I don't need it. All that I needed was to be able to, well, first draw attention to the Silk Fortune tools enough to actually make it worth making a cracker, and then get as many in the way of those rare enchanted tools as possible. Maybe not as possible, as many as reasonable, that way I'd have more than enough in the way of material to fuel my future adventures. Because I do want to make sure to make a few in the way of artifacts, just to show what once could be, and what all can be from there. Because, well, when I discovered it, I was surprised. Once I managed to make it public enough that it was mistaken for common knowledge, my job was finished. Aside from a bit of taunting which managed to raise my ire, I was thankful enough that it had merely become noticed and was no longer completely obscure. Now, on a side note, I do believe that eventually I'm going to end up replacing all of my enchanting with probably nothing but enchanted books inside of the table, or placing books in the table to make them into enchanted books. Whereas the enchanted books themselves, so powerful that I can't resist. I have to make sure that I make a living library out of villagers. And I'll have to wait until 1.8, maybe 1.11 even, before I can call it completely finished. But that's fine, because I've got time. And that's also where the fishing loot comes in, because I don't know the level that fishing loot comes in. The bows, the rods, and the enchanted books. It might be more powerful to make them inside of the enchanting table, but it's definitely less time consuming to AFK fish. And being able to do that is really going to speed me up by a tremendous deal. But it's not going to be nearly as fast as the investment that making a living library would be. So I just can't go without that. No matter how much time it takes, I will create one. Now, I love this Enderman farm, even after the point in time that I can make technically better or faster designs, easier to make, all that other stuff. I'm gonna keep it around, even if I keep it turned off. An old legacy model like this shows more than anything the age of a server, or the age of a world. What the people who've played on it have gone through and what they've actually dedicated themselves to. Because something that's slightly more difficult than just a single platform is, it's a worthy investment. Something that taking the time to do really shows that you're actually dedicated towards playing. Now, I was in the process of building something similar to this, but it was overly complicated, and a buddy of mine let me know that a model like what I wanted, where the Enderman would fall down past tripwire hooks, already existed, and it was already max speed, and that I was just overbuilding too much. And he gave me the design and the location. I can't remember the exact name of the person. It's something like King, Queen, something or another. I'll make sure to try and find it also and link it. But all I had to do was basically just memorize it and then get it built up, and that was simple enough as it was. I overbuilt it slightly compared to its original model, but that's okay. Let's take a look so that I can show you what I mean. Please don't teleport on top of this. Now, I had built up a copy on backups and my testing world more than once to make sure that I got the pattern correct, as well as the spacings. Because up inside of here, there's a vine, and in 1.11, I think it is, the vine cannot grow directly beneath a button. Oh, right. Now at this level, you can see that there's a glass block inside of the recombining area to make sure that it's just outside of the area of those tripwire hooks, so that if anything does land on it and survive the fall, that they, oh, hi, that they just aren't, inside of the range of being able to stick around and will eventually despawn. But I know that although in, 1.11, the vine can't grow beneath a button, in no version of Minecraft can a vine jump a gap. So that's where the careful counting came in to make sure that the gap was right where the button would be, if I was using a button, that is. Now, of course, It's wonderful design. The Endermen fall straight past tripwire hooks. I probably shouldn't have used sticky pistons and glass. I probably should have used normal pistons, but that's okay, because I don't see any that have spat their block out, so it should be fine, at least for now. And I do plan on building an off switch, laying some redstone along, this one and that one, and getting it hooked up to where I can turn the thing off or reset it as need be. I built it out a little further, not only for cosmetic reasons, but also in the prayer that I pull as many of those pack spawns into the inside of the farm as possible. The roof on this axis is 38, and on that axis is 39, and then that ring of endstone around the very edge has ice just above it, and water through all of the center bits to try and discourage them from getting on top, and they'll also be far enough away that they can despawn. So I should be able to, well, it was not only max XP before, but now it should be pulling in just as many pack spawns as possible, which is a good thing. You definitely want that. Now, of course, making sure that it's eternal so that I can rebuild it as need be if anything bad happens, definitely important. And rebuilding the bottom portion a few times is definitely something that I'll be doing. Dear Lord, hang on here. Away with you. Well, that's definitely not something that you see too often. But, I do like the way that it looks. It's very clean. You can't see the pistons from down below. I like that a lot. And I do believe that the sacrifice of the extra material is more than worth it. Here we are. Let's get out of here before something bad happens. Now, I do look forward to updating, oh God, and the wither. Something so destructive, something so useful. I've seen lots of people use the wither for things like breaking wood, cobblestone, obsidian. There's only one person that I've ever seen use the wither to make an entire perimeter. And that's the kind of thing that I used to really enjoy. Those kinds of ideas absolutely gave light to the world. One of the things that I used to do to slightly troll one of my friends, the one who had banned the fish farms, I'd wait until I knew that he was over at a zombie spawner, grinding for XP, and I would slip over, dig down a little ways away, but making sure that I was close enough that he would see the boss bars, but making sure that I wouldn't damage any of the builds. He knew that I was only equipped in iron armor with a diamond chest plate. And then 3 or 4 withers, their boss bar would show up on his screen, and he'd just be like, oh dear God, are you okay? Did something bad happen? I'm perfectly fine, I'm having fun, enjoying myself. And that was my way of fighting the wither over there, just to make sure that I was always making him raise an eyebrow. I don't know that any of them actually touched a nether star outside of me, or crafted a beacon. They were definitely technical players, but I was cut from a different cloth than they. We had the same pattern, but much different ideals, which is part of the reason why I make sure to shoot these notes. That way, the people in the future who follow in my footsteps won't exactly see what I'm doing as the path of the damned, but instead something far more enlightening. So, I look forward to the day when you too do as I've done and use 1.3 for making perfect villagers, because anyone can be special.